My name's Michael Reed, 41 years old. I work as a mechanic at Cooper's Auto down in Maple Ridge, Indiana. Nothing fancy about me. Never has been. I wake up at 5, drink my burnt coffee, kiss my wife on the cheek, and head to work. I fix cars. I come home. I pay the bills. I mow the yard. I watch the news with my dog at my feet. That's my life. Or at least, it used to be. I met Lauren 12 years ago at my cousin's wedding. She was stunning, olive skin, copper hair that caught the sunlight like fire, and a laugh that made people turn their heads. I fell hard. We got married a year later in a little church off Route 28. No big crowd, just a few friends, some family, and a dance under the stars in her daddy's backyard. She was everything I ever wanted. I thought I was everything she wanted too. I should have known better. It started small. That's always how it starts. Lauren began coming home late from her graphic design job. "Client meeting," she'd say, brushing past me like the air didn't even stir. She started dressing nicer too, lipstick for the office, perfume she never wore for me, high heels clicking like gilt down the hardwood floors. I asked once, maybe twice. She snapped, said I was being insecure. So I backed off. Like a fool. Then there was the phone. She'd never let it out of her sight. Bathroom. Kitchen. Even slept with it under her pillow. She used to leave it lying around. Now, it was like it held national secrets. I told myself it was work stress. I told myself she was just tired. I told myself whatever lie I needed to keep from ripping the curtain off the truth. But truth doesn't stay hidden. Not forever. It came to me in the form of a mistake. One cold Thursday in January. Lauren left for work like usual. But she forgot her phone. I didn't even notice until it buzzed 3 times in a row. I glanced down. A message preview flashed on the screen. "Last night was perfect. Can't stop thinking about your skin. T." My heart dropped. I stared at the message like it wasn't even real. Like the letters had rearranged themselves into something wicked just to mess with me. But no. It was real. And it shattered something in me. Not just trust. Not just love. But identity. I was her husband. Her provider. Her anchor. And suddenly I was just the man she lied to. I picked up the phone. Opened it. No password. They never think you'll look when they've already decided you're beneath suspicion. His name was Tyler Hale. Big shot real estate developer from downtown Indianapolis. 52. Silver hair, fast cars, country club tan. I remembered the name. He was in the paper once. Some new condo project. The kind of guy who bought lakefront homes just to tear them down and build something shinier. There were dozens of messages. Some pictures. Hotel reservations. Dinner receipts. The rot went deep. I sat at the kitchen table for 2 hours, staring at those texts while the snow fell outside. I should have cried. I should have called a lawyer. I should have screamed. But I didn't. I got quiet. Cold. Focused. That's the thing about betrayal. It doesn't burn. Not right away. First, it freezes you. Then it hardens you. Then, if you're a man like me, a man with nothing to lose, it reshapes you into something else. I waited for her to come home that night. I played it cool. She smiled like nothing had happened. Kissed my cheek. Told me she was exhausted. I said I'd made her favorite dinner, chicken Alfredo. She laughed and said I was too good to her. I nearly choked on that. Later that night, as she slept beside me, I stared at the ceiling and made a vow. This wasn't going to end with a divorce. Or a fight. Or me moving out while she got half of everything. No. She took something from me that night. The kind of thing you don't just get back. and I was going to take something from her. Something she would feel deep. This is the story of how a quiet man from Maple Ridge turned his heartbreak into fury, and how my wife's betrayal became the last mistake she ever made. The next morning, I woke up before the sun and stared at the woman beside me. Lauren. The same woman I promised to love till death. Her back was to me, her red hair spilling over the pillow like rust. She sighed in her sleep, peaceful, untouched by the war she'd started in my chest. I got out of bed without a sound, stepped over the dog, brewed my usual coffee. Everything on the outside was the same, but inside? Different. Something had broken open. I didn't talk much that day. Didn't joke with the guys at the garage. Didn't laugh at Joe's dumb political rants or Doug's greasy diner food stories. I just fixed brakes, changed oil, and thought about Tyler Hale. About how a man like him sees the world, people as assets, wives as prizes, loyalty as negotiable. I thought about how Lauren had smiled at me while she sent him texts under the dinner table. I wondered if she ever looked at me and felt even a flicker of guilt. Doubt it. But I didn't act. Not yet. Revenge is like welding, rushed, and it falls apart. Wait too long, and it cools. You have to strike at the right moment, with the right tools. So I started gathering tools. First thing I did was call my cousin Blake. He's a computer guy. Does freelance security systems and hacking stuff I never understand. I told him I needed help finding out about a guy. Gave him Tyler's name, phone number, and email from the texts. Told him I thought this guy was hurting my sister. That was enough for Blake. He's always had a thing about protecting family. By that night, I had a full file. Emails, business records, social media, even his travel schedule. Turns out Mr. Hale wasn't just cheating with Lauren. He was cheating on his taxes too. And he had a wife, Marissa Hale, younger than him by 15 years, loaded in her own right. Daughter of a judge. They had a prenup that'd make most lawyers weep. If Tyler ever cheated and it could be proven, he'd lose everything, properties, bank accounts, even the beach house in Naples. That's when I smiled. First time in days. I wasn't just going to destroy my wife's fantasy life. I was going to turn her dream man into a puddle of regret. But I had to move carefully. I started by setting traps. I bought a burner phone and began texting Lauren as Tyler. Blake helped spoof the number. He told her he had to travel more discreetly now. Meetups would be riskier, but worth it. I wanted to see what she'd risk, how far she'd go. And she went far. They planned to meet at a hotel in Bloomington, one she and I had stayed at once for our anniversary. That stung. Not because of the memory, but because of the ease with which she rewrote it. I booked the room next to theirs under a fake name. Paid in cash. Brought a small camera. One I borrowed from Blake that could record audio and video through the wall. Lauren had no idea she was walking into a recording booth. That night, I sat alone in my hidden room and watched the woman I married laugh, flirt, and lie. "Did he suspect anything?" Tyler asked. She smiled. "Michael? Please. He still thinks I'm his good little wife." They laughed, clinked glasses. That was the moment. Not when I saw her hand on his arm. Not when I heard the whisper in his ear. No. It was when she said my name like I was nothing. That's when the last ember of love in my chest died. I saved the footage. Copied it to a dozen drives. Stored it in different places. Insurance. Then I went home and kissed her on the forehead while she slept. Because this wasn't going to be loud. Not yet. It had to build. Revenge, real revenge, is art. And I was just getting started with the brush. And how my wife's betrayal became the last mistake she ever made. I started changing things around the house. Little things. Moved the car keys. Adjusted the thermostat. Shifted the TV settings just enough to annoy her. I knew Lauren liked control, liked to feel in charge, composed. So I started tugging at that comfort, one thread at a time. She complained, nothing big. Just passive remarks. Did you move the laundry basket? Did the router get reset? Why is the alarm clock blinking? And every time, I'd smile, shrug, and say, not sure. Maybe something glitched. She'd shake her head and go back to texting. Probably him. Tyler was on a business trip in Atlanta, Lauren thought. But the real Tyler Hale was at a legal retreat in Santa Fe with his wife. I knew, because I had Blake watching his travel logs. Meanwhile, my fake Tyler kept texting Lauren from the burner phone. I made him say things I knew would push her deeper into the fantasy. Things like, I'm getting closer to ending it with Marissa. And, we'll go away, just us. Be patient. And she believed every word. It was easy, really. Lauren didn't want truth. She wanted escape. Tyler was her escape route. A rich, powerful fantasy. A way out of the life she thought was too small for her. A life I built with my bare hands. So I decided to make her world smaller. I quietly drained our joint account. Not all at once, slowly over weeks. Transferred everything into a private account under my name. Took my name off the shared credit cards. Paid off her phone bill in full, and set the account to close at the end of the month. I didn't want her noticing too soon. Then I took a few days off work. Told the shop I had a family emergency. In a way, that was true. I drove to Marissa Hale's charity office in Indy. Waited in the parking garage until she left for lunch. Walked up to her car, calm as still water, and handed her a small envelope. Open it alone, I said. She looked at me like I was crazy. I didn't care. I turned and walked away. Inside the envelope, a USB drive. With the video. A week later, news broke. Tyler Hale was served divorce papers in public, right outside a gala. His wife's attorneys leaked the footage to the press. Something about a moral clause in his development contract with the city. Sponsors pulled out. Projects frozen. The mighty Tyler Hale fell, face first into the dirt. And Lauren? She found out from her phone, just like everyone else. I watched her in the kitchen as she read the headline. Her face twisted from confusion to panic. I could feel the blood rush behind my eyes. Everything okay? I asked, buttering my toast like it was any other morning. She blinked. Yeah. Just work drama. I nodded. Hope it settles soon. She didn't eat. Just sat there, eyes bouncing between tabs, trying to piece together how the fantasy died so fast. I'd done all of it behind the scenes. I wasn't finished. The next step came on a Sunday. I told her I was heading to the hardware store. Instead, I went to see her mother. We'd never been close, but she always liked me better than Lauren's high school boyfriends. I told her I was concerned Lauren might be drinking again, that she'd been erratic, forgetting things, maybe even seeing someone. I didn't accuse. I just planted seeds. By that evening, her mom called her in tears. What's going on with you, Lauren? I watched my wife squirm under the weight of a lie she hadn't even told yet. The cracks were showing. And the best part? She still had no idea it was me pulling every string. I was building the collapse slowly, perfectly. Not a single hammer swing. Just the soft creak of a house sinking into its own rot. She betrayed me in silence. Now I was returning the favor. And how my wife's betrayal became the last mistake she ever made. By the end of March, Lauren was unraveling. She wasn't eating much. Jumped at every phone call. Kept checking the news, waiting for something, anything, from Tyler. But silence was all she got. Because the real Tyler Hale? He was done. Not just with her, but with the life she thought she was entering. He'd gone into hiding after the scandal. Divorced, disgraced, and booted from his own company. I heard through the grapevine he was living in a cabin in Montana while lawyers gutted him. Lauren's fairy tale prince had vanished. But instead of waking up, she doubled down. Sent him messages. Dozens. Long ones. Desperate ones. Some angry, some begging. Blake intercepted every single one. She'd pace the kitchen floor at night, gripping her phone like a lifeline. "Why won't you answer?" she whispered once, standing in the dark. I almost pitied her. Almost. The next move I made wasn't digital. It was personal. I started going out more, dinners, drinks after work. Nothing crazy, just enough to shift the pattern. She noticed. "Where have you been lately?" she asked one night. I smiled. "Just out. Needed to clear my head." She didn't like that. Not because she cared about me, but because she was losing grip of what she once controlled. She started trying harder, cooking again, asking about my day, wearing makeup around the house. But it was empty, rehearsed. The guilt didn't change who she was, it just made her desperate to keep up the image. That's when I brought up counseling. "I've been thinking maybe we should talk to someone," I said one evening. "A therapist." She froze. "About what?" I shrugged. "Communication. Trust. You know, things." She hesitated. "Do you think we need that?" "I think you do," I said, letting just a sliver of edge into my voice. Her face twitched, just for a second. She said she'd think about it. But I already knew she wouldn't call. Because Lauren didn't want help. She wanted escape. And with Tyler gone, there was no door left to run through. So I built a mirror instead. One she couldn't look away from. I printed out photos from the hotel footage. Nothing graphic, just enough. A hand on a knee. Her face leaning too close. A room service tray for two. I slid them into a plain envelope and mailed it to her work. No note. No return address. That afternoon, she came home early, pale and shaking. Her boss had called her in. HR got involved. Rumors swirled. She told me she was thinking of quitting. I acted surprised. "That's sudden. What happened?" She sat on the couch, eyes distant. "Just stress." I nodded. "Yeah. Stress will tear you up if you're not careful." She didn't respond. I let the silence stretch like a noose. That night, I went to the basement and opened the locked cabinet where I kept my hunting gear. I wasn't planning anything bloody, not yet. But I pulled out my father's old Remington and laid it across the workbench. Just held it. Thought about how easily people break. Lauren hadn't broken yet. But she would. This wasn't just revenge anymore. It was revelation. I wanted her to see herself the way I saw her now, hollow, shallow, selfish. And I wanted her to feel what I'd felt that night in January when I read that first message. Not just betrayal, oblivion. And how my wife's betrayal became the last mistake she ever made. April came in cold. Lauren had quit her job. Said she needed time to refocus. But the truth was, no one wanted her there anymore. Not after those photos. Not after the whispers. She tried blaming it on stress, on management politics, on everything but herself. But I knew the truth. And so did she. She spent her days at home now, cleaning things that didn't need cleaning. Rearranging furniture. Watching daytime TV like a ghost trying to remember how to be human. She started drinking more too. Wine with lunch. Wine with dinner. Wine before bed. I could hear the cork pop from the garage. She asked once if I'd ever thought about starting over. Starting over? I asked, pretending not to understand. Yeah, she said. A new city. A new place. Just getting away. I looked her in the eye and smiled. From what? She didn't answer. That week, I visited a lawyer. Not for a divorce, no, not yet. I wanted to check the legal standing of the house, the finances, the car, the insurance. Everything. I'd built our life from the ground up, and I wanted to make sure when the collapse came, she wouldn't get to cling to the rubble. Turns out, the house was in my name. Paid off. The accounts? Mostly drained already. Her credit card closed. All she had left was the car. A car I stopped making payments on 2 months ago. One morning, she walked outside and saw it gone. Towed. Repossessed. I watched her from the window. She stood in the driveway, phone in hand, spinning in helpless circles. No call she made fixed it. No apology could bring it back. Another piece down. And still, she didn't ask me if I knew. She couldn't face the possibility. She didn't want to know. Because the second she looked too close, she'd see what was coming for her. That same day, I left an envelope on the kitchen table. Inside was a printout of every text she'd ever sent to Tyler. Every photo. Every location. Her lies, organized, documented, dated. She found it when I was gone. She didn't say a word about it that night. Just sat at the dinner table with swollen eyes and trembling hands. She tried to eat, but her fork barely made it off the plate. I watched her, how quiet she'd become. Like a deer that finally realizes it's been bleeding. Everything okay? I asked, keeping my voice steady. She nodded once, a tiny twitch of the head. Then she whispered, I'm sorry. I sipped my water. For what? Silence. That night, I found her crying in the bathroom. I stood at the door and listened. She was whispering things to herself, frantic, broken things. Things I couldn't quite make out. I didn't go in. I didn't comfort her. Let the mirror do its work. She started sleeping on the couch after that. Said the bed felt too big. I didn't stop her. She needed to be alone with what she'd become. And still, there was one piece left. The final stroke. The one that would leave nothing behind. Because it wasn't enough to ruin the fantasy. Or wreck her name. Or take back the life she stole from me. No. I wanted her to see the ending coming, and know there was nothing she could do to stop it. And how my wife's betrayal became the last mistake she ever made. I waited until May. It was warm by then. The kind of warmth that feels heavy, like something pressing on your chest. Lauren barely left the house anymore. She'd stopped wearing makeup. Stopped brushing her hair some days. The woman who once measured life by appearances now couldn't face a mirror. Exactly where I wanted her. She was paranoid now. Always checking the mail. Peeking out the window. Asking questions in half sentences, trying not to sound afraid. But fear was there. I could smell it on her. The best part? I hadn't laid a hand on her. Not once. Everything that was happening, her job, her reputation, her financial ruin, she did that to herself. All I did was show her the reflection. Now it was time to end it. I sent her a message from the fake Tyler phone. Just one sentence. I need to see you. One last time. I knew she'd go. She couldn't help herself. She needed closure, answers, hope, whatever illusion she still clung to. I told her to meet him at cabin 14 of the old Lakeside Inn, the one by the woods that nobody goes to anymore. I paid cash and booked it under her name. I made sure the place looked exactly like she remembered. Candles. Red wine. Soft music. A final scene. She got there around 7:40 p.m., wearing a black coat and trembling hands. I watched from my truck, parked behind the trees. She went inside, waited. After 30 minutes, I stepped out and walked to the door. She opened it, expecting him, and saw me. Her face didn't register anger or confusion, just dread, like she already knew. I stepped inside without a word and shut the door. She backed away slowly, like I was something venomous. "I didn't know it was you," she said, voice cracking. "I know," I said. She started crying. "Michael, please. I didn't mean for any of this. You didn't mean for me to find out," I said. "That's not the same thing. I was lonely," she said, grasping at something, anything. "You were always at work. You stopped paying attention. I felt invisible." I nodded. "Yeah, I know how that feels." She looked at me like she wanted me to scream, to break something, to finally lose control. But I didn't. I just pulled out a small folder from my jacket and handed it to her. Inside were 2 documents. One was a signed confession she'd unknowingly drafted via an email hack, a complete timeline of the affair and financial misconduct from her company laptop. The other? Divorce papers. "I'm not taking anything from you," I said. "No lawyers. No court. You sign, and you walk away with what's left of your name." She opened the folder with shaking fingers. I don't have anything," she whispered. I stared at her. "Then maybe you should have kept what mattered." She started sobbing. I didn't feel a thing. I walked out the door and left her standing in the place where she destroyed everything. The next day she signed. I filed it. And just like that, it was over. 12 years. Gone. But for the first time in a long time, I felt free. And how my wife's betrayal became the last mistake she ever made.